Hey guys, Matt Burrell, Grow Together Ministries. Today, on this episode, we're going to talk about the most powerful principle that I've ever learned when it comes to growing your church. Church growth, man, it's the thing that we all desire probably above everything, because church growth says, hey, we're doing something. Church growth says, hey, we're moving in a direction. And let's be honest, church growth also brings us resources that we don't have. Now, if you're new to our ministry, I've been pastoring for the past 14 years at the time of this video, and I pastor a very vibrant, exciting church. Our church is I've been here 14 years. We now have 2 services on Sunday morning. We have 2 locations. We have another church service going on at another location on Sunday morning. And our church has grown to this thriving, vibrant movement. Lots of people, lots of ministry, lots of things going on. And if you want to learn more about that, you can just check us out at experienceliberty.org. Click the link in the description. You'll find it. But what I want to say to you about that is it's not always been that way. When I first came to Liberty, I was bivocational. I was pastoring bivocationally for about 2 years, and we had about 30 people. We were heavily in debt, and the church was really, really struggling, and we were having a difficult time. And I remember then the frustration of wanting to grow the church and just not sure what to do. I mean, we knew how to preach, I knew how to study, I knew how to come up with a message. I felt like I could deliver that message in a way that people would enjoy, but I just was trying to find the way to grow the church. And many times you go to go to a church conference or go to some leadership conference, and I would go in there and they would talk about spiritual principles. They would talk about theories of growth and theories of leadership. And just to be honest with you, it was really frustrating to me because I would go to this conference expecting to get something that would change my church dynamic, and I would leave with really nothing to show for it. What I really wanted was a toolbox. I wanted a toolbox full of tools that I could reach into that toolbox and pull out a tool and use that thing on Monday morning when it came to growing my church. Now, I ran into this principle that we call the 3 buckets principle. Now, I want you to know that I did not come up with this principle. This is not new to me. Many leaders use this principle, have talked about this principle, and men much smarter than me have broken this principle down. But I encountered this principle in those early years at the church, and I'll just be honest with you, it transformed the way that we did church. Now, the 3 buckets really represent 3 different things. They represent your Sunday morning experience. It represents your midweek experience at your church. And then it can have 2 things. It can have the other bucket, the 3rd bucket, contain your ministries and your missions project, right? Your missions activity, things you're involved in ministry. And so you've got to picture these 3 5-gallon buckets. One is Sunday, one is midweek, one of them is your missions and the ministries that you do at your church. Do you have that visualized in your mind? Okay, good. Now I want you to picture a 4th bucket. Now this 4th bucket is all of your church's resources. In this 4th bucket, it has your people in it. It has your money in it. It has your time in it. It has your energy in it. It is the thing that has every resource that your church and your ministry has. And you're a smaller church like we were. It's so difficult to get that growth and that momentum, and all your resources are in that bucket, no matter how deep that bucket is or how low that resource bucket is. That is your resources. So you have it. You've got the resource bucket, the Sunday bucket, you've got the midweek bucket, and you've got your ministries and missions bucket, okay? Before I get into exactly what this means, I want to encourage you, if you've never subscribed to the channel, make sure you push the subscribe channel. It helps us to be able to get this content out to more people. And drop a comment. Let us know your thoughts on this video and any questions you have, any way that we can help you, because our desire is to help you to go further and to fulfill what God's called you to do at your church and in your ministry. Okay, back to the buckets. Remember, we have the Sunday morning bucket, we've got our midweek bucket, and we've got our ministries and missions bucket. And of course, we have our resource bucket. When I first came to our church, what we were doing is what most small churches do. We were taking our resource bucket and we were distributing it evenly between the three buckets. We'd put a little bit of our resources in Sundays. We would put some of our resources in the midweek service. We would put some of our resources in our missions. We would put some of our resources in our ministries. And what happened is we would take our resources and we would spread them evenly across all three of these buckets. And you know what that really meant? Now, you're not going to like this, but this is what I realized. It really meant that we weren't good at any of the three buckets. Our Sunday morning was just okay. Our midweek service was just okay. Our ministries were just okay. And our missions were just okay. It didn't matter what our intentions were. It matters what our results were. And what our results were dependent on is where our resources were at. We had spread our resources nice and evenly, and we evenly were terrible at everything we did. Now, I know that is so bad to say, and it makes you feel bad as a leader, and it makes you feel bad as your church. But what we have to ask ourselves is, how can we grow our church? And so I want to give you this principle. Here's the principle, all in a nutshell. Every church that is small, we must do something that is very out of the box. We're going to do something that most people don't think of, and that is we're going to, instead of taking our resources and spread them all the way across all three buckets, what we're going to do instead is we're going to take every resource we have and pour it into the Sunday bucket. You see, your Sunday experience is what grows your church. Most people are going to go to church for the very first time on a Sunday morning. 90% of every person who's going to walk in and see you and visit you and get to know you and experience you is on a Sunday morning. And so our Sunday morning must be the very best that it can be. You see, there's no reason for a midweek if we don't get the first of the week handled. If your first service, if the thing that draws people to you is not at the best it can be, then that's what we need to do. Now, understand that best it can be means best that you can be where you are. You may not have the resources I have or have the resources someone else has, but the goal is you take every resource you have, you pour it into that Sunday morning experience, and you keep week in and week out pouring into that Sunday morning experience. Some of you are going to disagree with me, but you need to get rid of some of these ministries you're doing and take that energy, both volunteer and financial and all the rest of it, and pour that into Sunday morning. You need to take that midweek energy, take that midweek money, take that midweek stuff and pour it into the Sunday morning. And here's what's going to happen. Here's what's going to happen. You're going to pour into the Sunday and pour into the Sunday and pour into the Sunday. And guess what's going to happen to your bucket on Sunday? It's going to fill up. And when it fills up, watch this, it's going to roll over. And then it will roll over into your Wednesday night or in your midweek night. It'll roll over into your youth night. It'll roll over into your missions. It'll roll over into your ministries. But if you don't get the first thing right first, there'll be nothing to roll over to the other. And so I want to challenge you, and I know this is a very practical step that will seem difficult for you, but a leader in a small church who wants to see their church grow needs to seriously sit down with leadership and say, guys, we need to cut out some things that we're pouring resources into that are not bringing about benefit. And we need to reallocate those resources to our Sunday morning service. And we need that Sunday morning service to be the very best that we can be. Because when someone comes on a Sunday morning, that is when we have our greatest opportunity of impact. And so if you're on here and you're going, man, preacher, I'm in this church and man, I'm bivocational and I'm having to preach on Sunday mornings and Sunday nights and Wednesday nights and I'm doing, listen, I want to say this to you. You need to pull all that together, and your best sermon needs to be on Sunday morning. Your best children's program needs to be on Sunday morning. Every volunteer that's able needs to be there on Sunday morning to greet your guest and to love on your guest and to help them find their way around the property. You see, the Sunday morning experience is where it all happens. And I know you're in a church where, man, Sunday school, everybody, you got people who, man, Sunday school is our thing. We just don't want to. You got people who are like, man, well, I want to have Bible study on Wednesday night and I want to do this on Thursday night. I know it's difficult to say, look, guys, we've only got this many resources. And if we've only got this many resources, let's not be average at a bunch of stuff. Let's be really good at one thing. And that thing you need to be really good with is that Sunday experience. When somebody walks into your church on a Sunday morning, they need to walk in and go, man, this place looks good, feels good, smells good. Man, that's good preaching. And boy, I love that song. And man, they were really good to my children. You see, to grow from a small church to a medium-sized church, to grow from that little church up is harder than people think it is. And one of the main reasons it's harder is because we try to spread our resources out. And so I want to encourage every person watching, if you're a pastor, you got a small church, make a list of every ministry, missionary, and service you have. And then with everything in you, I want you to I would suggest you work with your leadership and try to figure out a way to scribble out and erase as many of those things as you can. And when you do that, free up that money, free up those volunteers, and free up that energy for Sunday morning. Man, I'm telling you, that Sunday morning service will become awesome. People will come and enjoy it, and it won't be long. Then you'll be able to add ministries to your church. But you got to start what is the very beginning, and that's Sunday morning. Remember, guys, you only have one bucket of resources. Choose wisely where you pour it out. Hey guys, thank you for joining us for this video. I want to encourage all of you. You can go check out some of our other videos that we have. We have a lot of videos about preaching, church growth. Our desire, our goal is to get you guys to fulfill the most you can right where you're at. If you're a guy or a gal that's struggling in a small church, hey, listen, I want you to know we know where you're at. We've been right where you're at, and we want to help you get through that. And so drop in some comments, fire up a conversation, shoot us an email. We'd love to connect with you. Our desire is to see your church grow to the potential that God has for it.